Okay, so do usually an intro. I'm Mark. These are skits I did about 25 to 30 years ago. Skits are videotaped done at CCF, and they're on a YouTube channel known as CCF 90s Skits Nostalgia if you want to watch this without commentary. And there's a lot of evangelical cringe here, and there's a lot of evangelical cringe in this one. This is called God's Thoughts. Honestly, this is one of those times where I was given the topic for the CCF and I had to write a skit around this. And I had no idea what this was. It was just given God's thoughts, so I came up with this thing. Now, this is a sketch that I have to admit didn't really work well on paper. Like, when I wrote it, they looked at that and thought, this isn't really going to be funny. But I actually think it's these two actors that play Bill and Clay that actually really just make this work. Now, coming up here is a line as they do this. Yeah, when they say, like, we want 2 seconds, let's go. This is a reference to, I think, the Rose Bowl. I don't remember what year. I think it was 1997. And, yeah, essentially the WSU Cougars were at the Rose Bowl, and they were about to make a touchdown, and they wanted a few seconds on the clock and they could have turned the game over, and they could have won the game, but suddenly the clock just started running really quick, and then the game just kind of ended, and the Cougars lost. So that's what that's a reference to. This is just a weird idea. I don't even remember how I came up with this idea of this kind of lab class or something where it's just like, yeah, these guys are like in the lab and they have to do demonstrations. And if you've been in any lab class in college, it's always like this, where you are in this kind of thing and you do a demonstration and then you have to graph it. And I don't know, it was always such a silly process to me. I don't know. I always thought it was just kind of so. I came up with this idea of kind of these two guys who kind of have this sort of Dumb and Dumber sort of mentality going on, and I don't think I'd ever even seen Dumb and Dumber, but I just kind of thought, like, hey, especially this one guy, I can't remember who he is, Bill or Clay, this guy. He kind of, I think I've had him in sketches before that I've talked about him, but he always had the mannerisms of Jim Carrey, so I guess, like, he's sort of the Jim Carrey character, and I guess the other character's kind of the Jeff Daniels character, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, I just noticed something about their names, Bill and Clay. You know, when I come up with names for sketches, I just sort of, like, I don't necessarily draw them out of a hat, but I won't spend too much time on it. I'll just kind of go like, okay, we'll just call this guy, and I'll usually just come with the first names that come into my head. Bill Clay, I suddenly realize, is an alias that Hans Gruber from the movie Die Hard used when he's trying to fool Bruce Willis. I just noticed that now. So this is just so hysterical how they have this graph and they're using this thing and they're just angles are measured in degrees, and it's like, and of course, because when you're graphing, this is what you do. You have to come up with this like thing, like, and here's the thing, when I took lab classes, I swear I would end up with a graph full of points that were just nothing, and then I'd have to sort of fake an arrow through it just to show, like, yep, this is what this shows, and because I knew how the experiment would go, because the thing is about lab class in college, like, the teacher already knows what the result of the experiment should be. So yeah, you are using the scientific method, but you have to cheat it, and it's really unnecessary. So it's kind of, I think that was born out of this, the fact that these two essentially not very intelligent people have to make these graphs, and they have to come up with this thing, especially when they go like, when they make up the whole thing, like, where they make the graph and they go, that looks like an arrow. This is something I actually use at home a lot, because really no one remembers this sketch, okay? No one does, all right. I'm going to have to say, like, there's very few people that remember this. And they don't remember it like they remember, like, their favorite movie or something like that. So occasionally I'm doing something and I'll just say to my wife, I'll go like, that looks like an arrow. Because it's like, it's essentially what you come up with on the, it's usually the results I come up with whenever I do stuff like this, like graphing and stuff like that, is I just look at There are some people that need graphs and pie
She acted
charts
like a
to
robot,
see
man.
anything.
I'm
But
out
for
of
me, I
here.
just look at that and I just
No,
go,
I don't
"Oh,
think
that's a
so.
circle
I'd
and
say
that's
that
an
was
arrow."
a
And there's just some
negative
people
reaction. I'm
that
gonna
just
graph
don't
that.
think like
Okay.
that. And I don't know how they come up with this graphic thing that they do like all the time.
Okay, negative.
You know, I don't know how they decide that's
Okay.
negative or
We need to
whatever
do
like
that
that. Just,
one more
and it's
time.
just
One more
something
time.
just
Okay,
that I just you just go with it,
can you
and I
help us?
just think
Can
it
you
kind
help?
of
Okay.
works.
Okay, now
Especially
I
like this
just need you to
character
be
who's
his
always so
wife. And
enthusiastic
Clay
to help
and
them.
just
You know,
do
it's
it one more
something I
time.
thought
Please,
about in the
Clay.
sketch. It's like,
Trust me on this one.
if
Look, one
this
more
is a
time.
lab
One more time.
class,
Hi,
really, those
honey,
two
I'm
other people here
home.
are doing the same
I'm so glad
experiment.
you're home.
And so
Look,
how
and you're
come they aren't
hungry
asking
there at
them to
work?
help for
Yes,
help?
I just miss you
I
so
don't
much.
know.
I made you your favorite
Maybe
bird. I made you some
obviously Bill and
cookies.
Clay
I
aren't doing the
really love
experiment
you.
right, but
Oh, that is just
oh yeah.
adorable.
So, and if
Come
I,
on, Clay. We need to finish.
oh boy. Oh yeah, and I don't think this was part of the.
Your wife
This was
just
not in the
expressed to you
rehearsal, but I think the sound
loving
guy just decided
emotion.
to play the Love Boat theme. I didn't ask him to on.
How do you
I just
feel?
kind of like,
I feel
or
like I'm
maybe
on
it
the
is in the
love
script.
boat.
I don't know. I don't have the original script before me, so sometimes I have to go
I'm
with
gonna
whatever
graph that.
I see
Yeah,
here. Oh man, I remember people just
that was a
talked to me
positive,
afterwards how
right?
much they loved the
Yeah.
sketch,
Okay.
and I loved it
Okay.
too. I just it was
Okay.
something that just didn't look like it
Let's
was
look
going to
at
work,
this.
and then when you actually got it
It's
working, and when
look, Clay.
people
It's
just get
it's
going, it
another
just really
arrow at room
works. This
temperature.
is kind of the
You
beauty
did
of
it
theater and
again.
doing
It's the same
spontaneous
thing.
things like
You're
that.
absolutely right.
This guy actually kind of
Fact,
sounds
it's a
more like Jerry
correlation.
Seinfeld now.
A what? It's a correlation. Let's write it down. Write it all down.
I have to do all this thing.
Okay,
In lab class,
okay,
this is what you
everybody, I'm
always do. You
back.
have to come up with all
Time's
these
up. Here we go.
things,
Get
and then you
ready.
have to
Get
come
ready.
up with a
Okay,
conclusion here. And if you
okay,
don't do that, you flunk. That's
yeah,
how
looks
lab
good.
class works.
Looks good.
I hated lab classes and
Theirs
stuff
is
like
really
that.
big.
I think the best part was like when they ended
There we
early, and
go.
sometimes they did.
Shoot.
So, yeah.
Oh,
But usually, as I recall,
about
you
your
would have
conclusion
to
here.
sign up for like a
What's that?
3 hours of
Conclusion.
lab,
God likes
and that
temperatures at
happened like
room.
every
God
week
likes
or every other
arrows at room
week. I don't
temperature.
remember.
That's right, and we've got the
Crazy
data to
stuff
prove
like
it.
that.
There, right
So,
there.
I think you missed the point, guys. The
and of
purpose
course,
of
we get
lab
to
is
the
to
message of
demonstrate
this
how
thing
God wants us to
because
respond to Him.
something I've noticed while
Let me
writing
help you out
these
here.
things is
When you were the
once you
quarterback,
do these
which crowd did
things,
you like better?
you have
The
this, a
zealous
bunch
crowd
of
or the
zany
silent
homily,
crowd?
and that's
Well, the
usually followed
zealous
by,
one. That's
and now it's
easy.
time for the
Sure. And
message,
Clay,
and it's
which wife
sort of like,
which wife would you
kind of
rather?
breaks the,
The loving
eh.
one.
I think if I were to write these
Right, now here's
sketches
the
now,
point
I'd
you're
definitely do them
missing,
in
all
a
right?
different way.
Man is created in God's
But
image.
hey,
If we want
sometimes
loving
you
wives
got to
and
go for
zealous
this.
crowds, what do you think God wants
And
from us?
yeah,
Of course.
so I still don't
What
really
you're
know what
saying
God's
is
thoughts
God wants to
means.
receive from
Hopefully
us
that this sketch is
zeal
a
and love.
demonstration of this.
It's
And
like the
that's
zeal
so
and love that
vague
we
that
want to receive
unfortunately you
from
can really
others.
throw any
Hey, I
interpretation you
think you guys
want
are
as
starting to
far as
understand
God's
this
thoughts
now.
goes.
Hey, well, why don't you just
But
cut my office a
yeah,
little later?
I do like the
Talk
fact
about a
that
little
it's
more
like
science. And for you two,
once we
probably
got to
many
the
hours worth of science.
once we got
Sound
to
good?
this is one of those
Yeah,
sketches that just
your
goes
daddy
on
wants
way
to teach
longer
us
than it
more
should. I mean,
stuff.
these
You
skits
must see
should
some
be
real
ideally like just
scientific
a few minutes.
potential.
This is like 8 minutes, which was incredibly
Wow.
long.
Let's
Let's
go
go
get
get
some
some
grub.
grub.
Deal.
Deal. That's it. It's over.